Hi, it's Scott again, and we're back with Grazel from Grazel Garcia Psychotherapy. Great to see you again, Grazel. How are you doing today?
Great to see you, Scott. I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm always good. So yeah, today I'm really excited to speak to you because I've had some questions from some friends about they're having difficulties in their relationship and they're trying to work out whether they should go to couples therapy or if actually one of them in particular needs to work on themselves first. So I was just wondering how you kind of navigate that and how you can tell when you need to work on yourself and when actually you need to work on each other in couples therapy. What do you think?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of people need to know the answer to that question because it's such a hard, uh, there's so much information out there. I think as therapists, we base our work on to the best interest of the patient,
Hmm.
right? So if they're looking for couples therapy, um, part of the assessment questions is that, like, what brings you to couples therapy and why have you not chosen individual therapy first?
Hmm.
And that gives me an understanding on what they're looking for. Now, if they're asking me directly, hey, I don't know if couples therapy is the right treatment for us right now or individual therapy, then I'll ask kind of, well, you called me, you're looking for couples therapy. Do you find that couples therapy is something that you need right now? And if they say yes, then it's more relational based. If
Hmm.
you come and see a couples therapist, the relationship is what's going to be treated, not your individual issues,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So if you're looking for support individually because there are individual issues that are affecting your relationship,
Hmm.
and you need more focus on that, then I would say, visit an individual therapist, right? Because once you go to couples therapy, I'm working on the relationship. I can do a little bit of work on each of you individually because that's what we do in stage 2 of emotionally focused therapy, but it's not as deep. So if you're looking for deep work for individual needs, then I would say go to individual therapy first.
Yeah. So uh, what sort of things do you find people need to work on in individual therapy in order to make couples therapy effective? Like, are there particular, I don't know, trauma or childhood stuff or whatever? Like, what sort of things do they need to work on themselves in order to make couples therapy effective?
Yes, absolute. Great question. When there's deep trauma
Yeah.
and that's blocking their connection with their partner,
Mm.
it makes it a lot harder in couples therapy to work on that because we're focused on the relationship. So usually what I'll see is that if I'm working on the relationship and I see individual blocks, meaning individual emotional blocks that's caused by previous trauma in their family of origin,
Mm.
then I'd say, hey, this is something that you can deepen in your individual work, and I can't do it so much in couples therapy, right? Like, I would want you to go and work on maybe finding more grounding in your anxiety that comes from, that's exacerbated based on your previous trauma.
Mm.
So maybe looking at meeting with a therapist that works with trauma and anxiety and depression. Sometimes I also encourage a lot of my neurodiverse couples to find an ADHD specialist or an ASD specialist that can work on targeting neurodivergent traits that affect intimacy in their relationships. So I that they definitely need individual treatment for,
Yeah.
right? Because it's very focused.
Mm.
Um, Trying to think if there's other ones. Yeah, it's mostly trauma,
Yeah.
right? Understanding your own trauma and then neurodivergence.
That makes it nice and straightforward. Two very clear categories there. That's great. So, I mean, on the trauma angle, in what ways can someone's individual trauma impact their relationship?
Yes. All right. So let's say I'm treating a couple, and someone comes from severe trauma in childhood,
Mm,
and they haven't really processed that so much or found healing in themselves.
mm,
Um, the ways that they may show up in relationship may be very guarded, or they may be hypervigilant.
mm,
They may they may perceive a regular conversation in a different way, in a more intense way that causes significant disconnection and misunderstandings in probably what you would consider a regular conversation.
mhm.
They may hear words, and a regular word may be activating for them,
Yeah.
and they lose ground in themselves,
Mhm.
and then therefore create a disconnection in the relationship.
Yeah.
When that happens, then they do need to process those emotional blocks that's hindering emotional connection in their partnerships.
Yeah. I mean, in order to identify those things that are activating, as you say, it takes a certain level of self awareness, doesn't it?
Yes, it
So, do you have any tips for like how to cultivate that self awareness in yourself?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's simple. It's really simple. But sometimes doing something simple is can be hard,
Mm,
but
mm,
pausing before acting, pausing before saying something, right? Is that, am I getting triggered about what they're saying? If your answer is yes, then okay, that's maybe more related to you than the other person. If you find that the other person is not intentionally trying to harm you,
yeah.
right? So pausing is going to be everyone's best friend. I usually call it mindful pausing, right? Mindfulness meditation really does help.
Mm. Yeah, there's I don't know if you've heard of it. It's something called orienting.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
orienting is fantastic for that type of thing. I know I found that really, really helpful in my own journey.
Yes.
It's difficult to, well, certainly for me, it was difficult to come drop down into my body and actually stop and feel. And still got a long way to go myself, but yeah, it's
Yeah, I think biologically we're meant to go into a quick reactionary mode in order to stay safe and protect ourselves. So we either go to fight, flight, or freeze mode,
yeah, yeah,
right? So whenever there's a threat that's coming our way, we do need to protect ourselves. But with trauma, that threat becomes more intensified when it's not supposed to be
yeah,
that intense. Right. So it's really good to be able to know how to pause. But sometimes with trauma, it's not safe to pause.
yeah,
It's really difficult. So that's the part that they really need to work on in individual therapy.
yeah. And when you've been through that traumatic experience, it might be that it takes a long time for you to actually be able to pause because your body has been on high alert for 20, 30, 40 years, and your body just will not believe that it's safe. I was literally just talking about this with my wife this morning about how sometimes people with chronic illnesses, they can actually get healed physically completely, but it takes their body and their nervous system a lot of time to catch up and realize, oh no, it is okay. And, it's the exact same
Yes.
thing with trauma. Um,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Right. That's exactly why I love emotionally focused therapy, because it also works with individuals' trauma,
yeah.
right? It teaches you how to slow down and pause.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a scenario where you've got one partner or maybe even both partners, they've got this traumatic background and they're all activated and just struggling to get on and function as a couple. are there any scenarios where couples therapy could actually do more harm than good, and that they shouldn't go to couples therapy? Um, what do you think? Yes.
Um, I, again, as a woman of color, I am, I put a very high value in making sure that people have resources that they need
Hmm.
and the right resources for them. And I say that if you're looking for a couples therapist,
Hmm.
make sure that you go to a couples therapist that says they have advanced training or they're certified in
Right.
providing a couples treatment modality. Because, like for me, learning emotionally focused therapy feels like another doctoral degree,
Right. Yeah.
right? It's like it takes about maybe at least 5 years for you to really know how to implement emotionally focused therapy for individuals, couples, and families. So I say stay away from couples therapists that don't have advanced training or any training in doing couples therapy,
Yeah.
because they can create a lot of harm
Mm.
in because they don't have a focus, right? So they're really talking about basic stuff and
Mm.
they're not forming um, a structured way of creating security
Mhm.
in your relationship.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Is I don't know how it is in the States. I mean, over here in the UK, anyone can call themselves a therapist. It's not a protected term at all. In the US, is it a protected term? Like, or could just anyone off the street set up a couples therapy practice and do whatever they like?
I think for all therapists, for all therapists,
Hmm.
we have had training in grad school to do couples therapy.
Okay.
Ba- Very basic.
Yeah.
So we have to have that class per
Yeah.
se. Um, can you market yourself as a couples therapist? Um, I don't think it's ethical
Mm.
to market yourself as a couples therapist if you've only had one class.
Yeah.
I we do have ethical codes we have to follow, and we want to make sure that we're not um, leading people on.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your questions. Like here, we abide by the board's regulations,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we do have ethical codes to follow. So we do have marketing um, codes that we do have to follow. So if I'm not a couples therapist, and I will have to say that, or if I want to identify as a couples therapist, I would want to say that I only have basic training,
Yeah. You kind
right?
of you need the toolkit to be able to deal with whatever comes up in a session. And if you don't have that, you're holding the space for that couple. That can be really dangerous for everyone. Um,
Yes,
yeah,
right.
100% like level of qualification and making sure someone is at that higher level. Yeah,
And
absolutely really important.
and one most important thing is that couples therapists without training can create so much harm, especially if they don't have domestic violence training.
Mm.
Because a lot of couples do get into fights and can become abusive. And there's emotional abuse, financial abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse. And if the couples therapists only have basic training, they won't know how to assess for safety in the room when there's abuse happening. So absolutely can create a lot of harm.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, that's really eye opening. Do you feel like there are therapists practicing like that? Or is that, I don't know, how common do you think that type of thing is?
It's pretty common because sometimes, and couples therapists that do have training, sometimes the cycle of abuse is very powerful. So they can manipulate the therapist as well.
Mm, okay. Yeah.
So if you have a perpetrator in the room and you're not well versed as a therapist to look at the cycle of abuse,
Hmm.
then you don't know what you're looking for. So you're going to be easily swayed and
Mm,
it's going to harm for the therapist and for the couple.
yeah. That's really eye-opening. I've never considered that before. Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I love talking to you, actually. Learned so much.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you have great questions, Scott. So
Appreciate it.
uh, keep forming them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll speak to you next time. Have a good one, Grazel. Bye.